Light mode. Cool. All right. So I'm going to talk about Gatsby and Netlify. Who's heard of Gatsby? A few of you. Okay. So what Gatsby is, it's a JavaScript library. So it's used to, I guess, publish content. So whether it's more like a CMS or more like a blog system that, typically you can use Gatsby, but obviously, well, actually Gatsby is also based on React. So you can use it for other things as well if you like, but it's sort of geared more towards content publishing. Netlify is more like a, I guess, publishing platform. So you use Netlify to deploy your content, which I'll get to in a sec. I guess I jumped ahead. So that was what Gatsby was. As I said, I was very much underprepared. So that's taken just out of Gatsby's website. So if you go to GatsbyJS.com, that's what you get. So it's a library based on React that builds websites and apps. So this is the interesting part about how Gatsby actually works. So Gatsby, I guess if you can provide Gatsby with data sources. So the data source can come from your existing CMS, like a WordPress, or it could be markdown files or text files, or it can come from databases or API endpoints. So any kind of data format, because it's an open source library, so it has a bunch of plugins that could help you deal with the data sources as well. The meaty bit is this bit here. So Gatsby takes the data sources and then it does its internal magic to transform that into something that could be served to your visitors, right? Imagine a CMS or blog system where you have different blog articles. So you grab the blog articles out of your database or out of markdown files, and then it builds it into React components, and it provides GraphQL endpoints as well, so that you can actually grab and manipulate the content as you wish, and then translate or build that out to plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So basically, once everything gets deployed onto Netlify or GitHub pages or whatever it might be, they, mostly static. So it doesn't really need a database anymore because everything's already grabbed by Gatsby and built and generated by Gatsby. So that's how it works. Now, the real world use, let me check whether I've got other slides. Okay, yes. So a while ago, okay, fine, yes, that is my blog. So a while ago, I rebuilt my blog. I rebuilt it because initially my blog was on Tumblr. And ever since Tumblr got acquired by Yahoo, I'm like, I'm just counting days now. I have to migrate off that platform. So I thought, okay, what should I do with it? I did some basic research and found Gatsby and Netlify. So I thought, okay, I'll just rebuild my blog using Gatsby and Netlify. Now I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right. Let me use a new window. Let me bring this thing up as well. Okay, so this is my blog, right? Now, this is generated, or this is built and generated by Gatsby and deployed on Netlify. What's cool about Gatsby is that it provides you with a bunch of built-in functionalities. So out of the box, it already does many things. Let me hide this panel for now. If I click on those sections, you'll see that they load extremely fast. And if you notice the URLs, they change as well. So they are hosted on Netlify. This is not a local copy, but it's extremely fast, right? So like how does it actually do that? If we go to the networking tab, let me just refresh this page just so that this is there's no funny things going on there. All right. Now, if I just hover my mouse on blog, it basically gives you prefetching by default. So I didn't actually have to do anything. So that actually comes with Gatsby by default. So every time I hover onto a link, it does a preload. Sorry, I have to scroll. So that's pretty cool, right? Now, it's also very developer friendly. So I've got the code here. It's open source, by the way. So if you want to see how it's done, it's on GitHub. Yes, it's on my GitHub account. So this is a directory, what the Gatsby directory looks like. But what's cool about this is if I do a npm start, it'll start building my blog using data sources. So if you can kind of see in a second, run page queries, this is actually building those static pages, which I will show you in a minute as well. It's generating image thumbnails and everything. So basically, at the end of this process, you get a static, I guess, website. So you don't actually need any dynamic languages like, or even databases for that matter. You can if you want to, but for a very simple blog, I don't need that. So my blog actually doesn't have a database. Now, so it finished building, right? So before I show you the local copy itself, I'm going to show you something else first. For those of you who have worked in playgrounds, you might already seen something like this before. Again, this is actually provided by Gatsby, so it uses the GraphQL library that gives you this nice interface that you can essentially experiment with and play with your content. So if I run this, it will get some data back. Or these are the all the markdown pages. So you get those content back, right? So that's just standard GraphQL stuff. For those of you who have worked with GraphQL, there's nothing too special with it. But if you haven't, that's GraphQL for you. So that's pretty cool. Something else that's cool as part of the Gatsby's starter pack. So Gatsby being a open source library, it has a bunch of plugins that you can use. So I actually used a starter pack that basically gives you Gatsby itself, plus whatever's necessary to actually deploy your Gatsby website onto Netlify. So there's a million different plugins that you can use. What was I going to show next? Oh, so part of the starter pack, there is this admin panel as well. So this admin panel is actually integrated with Netlify. So I have to actually log in with my Netlify credentials. So I'm logging in. These are my blog pages and static pages as well, if any. And this is essentially the admin panel. Now, I don't actually use that. I just work on my Git repo directly. But it's essentially for non-technical people. Like if we were to rebuild our Explore website in Gatsby, which we are, you can ask Mitch more questions on that. Then potentially it could be useful for other people to add pages. So I can add a new blog page here. So that's pretty cool. And then I can publish it. As soon as you click on publish, it'll just generate a new markdown file, push that up to Netlify, and get that deployed. So that's just something cool that you can do with this particular Gatsby Netlify starter pack. And then finally, you have the Gatsby site itself, which is exactly the same as I just showed you before. Now I'm going to show you some code. So the first thing I'm going to show you is, we talked about Gatsby requiring data sources and then, transform those data sources into static pages. So the data sources in this case are a bunch of markdown files. So these markdown files are contained in pages blog. So these are just, standard markdown files. So there's nothing too special to it apart from having some metadata that helps Gatsby to put things in the control. So this is actually my database. So what you see here, nothing is coming out of a dynamic database or anything. Like there's no live database. Everything's static. You can view the page source. Well, in this case, it's all condensed, but it's also SEO friendly because it's just normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And here's one of the components that powers this section here. So every time I create a new blog, obviously they will appear on this blog page itself, but it will also update this latest blog posts section. And that section is provided by this custom component. As you can see, it's pretty standard React stuff. If you have done React before, it's very standard. And then here's your GraphQL side of things that you can sort of manipulate and customize as you wish. But again, like it's very standard GraphQL and React. But the fact that, out of box, without doing much, you can essentially set up a blog very quickly. So this entire process, so I blogged about my experience. So if you want to know more details, just log on to my blog and see this particular article. But the whole...
Oh my God, is that the Fred Blue website?
Yes, it is, Harry. Thanks for noticing. This whole experience, including, so I designed my blog by myself, cut it up, put it in Gatsby. This whole thing took me 50 or so hours, including like finding and learning about Gatsby because, I never used that before. So that was like very positive experience for me. Like as a JavaScript hater, it made me hate JavaScript less. And I'm pretty pleased with the final outcome being like, it's a pretty modern solution and it works really, really fast as well. Yeah, that's it. Any questions?
You mentioned before, and I haven't looked into it much, but like you mentioned there's plugins for Gatsby.
Yes.
Sort of plug in and just adding an NPM. What do you need to add?
So the plugins are more specifically designed for Gatsby. So I actually used a bunch of them in my blog. So I've got a list here that I've used. So there are things like embedding videos, providing like syntax highlighting. I'm not sure what that, yeah. So these syntax highlighting stuff.
So they kind of wrap around the actual component itself, like the plugin style components.
Some of them are,
like
yeah.
Set up the style components within Gatsby.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and I use it for like analytics, page redirects, sitemaps, robots.txt. There's a, yeah, they've got a fair few of different plugins that you can use. 906, I guess.
Is it possible to use libraries that aren't yet plugged in for?
Yeah, depending on the use case, it's React based, so you know any React component libraries would work. Then down one level, it's JavaScript, so any kind of JavaScript libraries that works within the React ecosystem would work as well. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Oh, one thing I forgot to talk about is the Netlify side of things. So this is Netlify. You know, Playground also uses Netlify to do feature-based, feature branch-based deployments. So if I log into Netlify, there's an Explore one, but this is my personal one. Click into it. I'm not using any of the fancier functionalities. It does forms and media stuff as well, but I just use it as a deployment and I guess content serving platform. So you can see that there's a bunch of different deployments. You can roll back at any given time as well, if you like. And you can customize how you deploy as well. So I don't think I'm doing anything fancy here, but if you want, you can customize the build command here or even the publish directory, things like that. What else does it do? I think it does like A/B testing as well, but I'm not using that. So yeah, so what you see on this web page on my blog, this is actually served out of Netlify. And the best thing about Netlify is that for use cases like mine, it's actually free. So you don't even have to pay for anything to use it. So yeah, so I encourage you to check it out. And they can do it because it's all static content. So it's I guess it's cheap enough for them to do it. You can also just publish out of your GitHub pages as well, which is also free, but somewhat less reliable compared to Netlify. Any other questions? With mobile? Actually, yes. So one of the things I also used for my blog is this CSS framework called Boma. It's kind of like Bootstrap and a million other ones, but this one so happens to be provided by this starter pack that I use for it. And it's mobile responsive by default. If I can drag it. So it's all grid based. So it's mobile responsive by default. So yes, it does work on a mobile device. Anything else? Cool. Thanks, everyone.